Hey, what's going on, everyone? Eli here. As you can see by the title of this video, if you didn't realize, last week's video was me picking up my new to me Mark 6 GTI with a big turbo on it. Very excited about the car, very excited about videos to come, but I wanted to walk you guys through how I got this big turbo car for $8,500. Now, to start out, we're going to have to go back a little bit and look through some of the cars that I was looking at before I arrived at this Mark 6, because I know I posted on Instagram a lot, I posted my story a lot, and asked you guys for your opinions, and ultimately went with what I thought was the best deal and most fun for content. By the way, check out this vintage IgnitionTube sticker. That's the old GTI, but we're on to the new girl. Before I get too far into this video, I do owe a thank you to 3 different people who I did not thank in the unveil video, and I greatly apologize for that. The first one being my buddy Michael Toady. He picked the car up for me. He drove 3 hours to the seller and then drove 3 hours back from the seller just because we knew each other 7 years ago when he lived in Massachusetts. So he's out of the Texas area. I'll put his website on the screen. He does all sorts of private protection stuff. He is a great contact to have if you're ever in need of anything along those lines. I also have to give a massive shout out to Crawl 1960 in Humboldt, Texas. They stored the car for me for 2 weeks while I dealt with shipping nonsense, and I'm hugely appreciative of them. They do Jeep stuff, they do off-road stuff, you name it, they can probably do it. So if you're the Humboldt, Texas area, definitely check them out. They are a great company and they did me a huge favor as well. Finally, I have to give a shout out to Car Vertical. My friends over there helped me out. I did not have a Carfax for this car, and I wasn't interested in paying the Carfax price for a Carfax for this car. Car Vertical is a great alternative. Their report looks something like this. They did a report for me, and they're actually really reasonably priced. It's only $15.99 for a vehicle history check. Again, it looks something like this on the screen. Anyway, so I was scrolling through AudiZine. I like to scroll through the Audi classified section, which is just cars. The beauty of AudiZine is you get literally everything listed on there. There's a lot of B5 S4s, which I think will come down the road, but not in the near future. I found this 2005 Ultrasport Avant, and this is where my thoughts of, hey, you know, I could really make a project car work kind of started out. So I was looking through pictures. This is a really nice car, and I really like it. It's a manual B6 Ultrasport. Like I said, it's on some nice wheels. It's got some basic modifications. I could have done a big turbo on it, that kind of stuff. I ended up emailing this guy with a lowball offer, and he said no. So moved on, kind of scroll through Facebook Marketplace every now and again. This car came up, and I was actually debating on selling the SQ5 and moving into an RS4 just as something different. This is a really clean car. One of my buddies, Alex, was selling this car. Nice shadow there. I thought it was a really good looking car, and it crossed my mind, but at the end of the day I was like, you know what, the SQ5 is more practical than an RS4 and a little bit less maintenance heavy, so I moved on. Found this beauty on the internet, and figured I would show you guys this. This is Seca Laguna Blue, according to the ad. The grills are painted red, the wheels are painted red, and if you look really close, the exhaust tips are even painted red. That was a gem that I shared with my buddy Alex. I sent Alex almost all the cars that I looked at, and he gave his opinion, so just scrolling through and got a laugh out of this one. Figured you guys would appreciate that. This popped up. This is a V10 M5 for 16 grand. I was like, man, I could get out of SQ5 and I could get a daily in this car and have a lot of fun. But again, at the end of the day, these are really high on maintenance costs, and I didn't really want to deal with a 70,000 mile SMG transmission. Back to AudiZine. Another RS4. This one I really thought long and hard about. This is a $27,000 car, I think it was. The price is somewhere in here. I think it was mid-20s or something like that. It must have been mid-20s. Anyway, I was like, man, could I pull off a yellow car? This car would be sick. And I'm a huge fan of this. I think it looks really cool. But at the end of the day, the RS4 is like a little bit slow. And much more maintenance heavy than SQ5, so I bagged that one and moved on. This came up in my feed one day. This is a brand new A7 on some wheels and a roof box, and I was like, man, does that look good? Prices were too high. Moved on to this RS6, which got bid to 10.6 on Bring a Trailer. I was really tempted to bid on this car. I think it's a beautiful car, really nice spec, blue. It is still an auto. It hasn't been swapped, but that's not the end of the world. But again, this is a really maintenance heavy car. and I myself am much more interested in performance mods than maintenance videos, although those will get views, and I'm sure I'll have to do a couple on the GTI. In fact, I know for a fact I'll have to do a couple on the GTI. The idea of a sport wagon crossed my mind a couple times, and I didn't have any good examples, but I was between a TDI or a 2.5 sport wagon, and ultimately the TDI just ended up being kind of boring. I know there's a Golf, by the way. A TDI just didn't end up appealing to me too much because they're a little slow, and the 2.5 with a turbo kit would have been really, really difficult to source parts for because nobody really makes parts for them anymore. So I bagged those ideas. I did contemplate briefly a diesel Golf, but I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. So then we move into another RS6 that I have the pictures for here, actually. It's a pretty clean car, lowered, some wheels, decent shape interior. This was only $9,500, I think. Yeah, asking $9,500, so you probably could have lowballed them, got it for $8,500. But I don't know, they kind of scare me. As cool as they are, they kind of scare me. This is the only Mark 7 that I considered because it's the only one that I could find even remotely close to 10 grand. This one had been in an accident, I'm pretty sure, and these are the only 4 pictures that I could find of it on the internet. It was on Facebook Marketplace too. I briefly considered it. I think it's it's a DSG. This would have been a fast car, but I just don't think the Mark 7 does it for me the way a Mark 6 does. So at this point, I was pretty serious about either going GTI or sorry, I should say, at this point, I was pretty serious about going Mark 6 or Mark 7. Scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, I had a couple Mark 6s that I reached out to the owners on. But then I came across this car. Up for sale is a 2010 Volkswagen GTI Mark 6, 130,000 miles, fully built engine, 35,000 miles, blah, blah, blah. $8,500. I was like, man, built engine, big turbo, $8,500? Like, let me at least text this guy. He's got a big, long list here. Then I scrolled through here and realized that at one point a year ago, so this car had been listed since November 2018. I bought it in May 2020. So it had been listed for almost a year and 5 months, and the price had just gone down because more miles on the build. He was asking $15K with 10,000 miles on the motor, so I literally paid half that for 30,000 miles on the motor. Price reduced, blah, 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 sold. That's because I bought it. But as I was looking at this car, I texted him. He sent me the Facebook Marketplace link. It had this, it had that. Saw the Dyne audio. Saw that it was a manual, and I was like, man, like this is the car. Like, I'm going to buy this car. And at this point, I was messaging the guy pretty seriously. I'll show you the text messages in a second. And as I'm about to send the car for a pre-purchase inspection, this car shows up. 2006 B7A4 Avant 6-speed. And this is something that I had been talking about with JHM. JHM had expressed interest in working with me on a 2.0 FSI build because they have a big turbo for the longitudinal motors, not the transverse motors, so it wouldn't have been able to do like a GTI or something like that. At least I don't think. This is a beautiful car. I love the spec on this car, and it's a manual. It would have been really fun. And so you saw me post on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, my existential crisis of do I do a big turbo GTI or do I do a big turbo A4, although it wouldn't have come big turbo. And ultimately, you guys said this car, but my heart said GTI. And so I stuck with the GTI. I went for it, and I ended up texting back and forth with the owner. So I'll show you guys those messages. I'll pop them up on the side of the screen here. Let me move a little to the side so we can move the mic over with me so we can get the text messages up on the screen here. Hey man, saw your post on Vortex, blah blah. Thanks for reaching out. I have it on Facebook. I couldn't find it because originally he said the motor was built in New Jersey, so I figured the car was in New Jersey. It was listed in Texas. He moved to Texas, which threw me for a little bit of a loop because I thought I could just drive to New Jersey and pick the car up. Now we're a little bit further, but what can you do? He sent me all this information. Clutch has been done. Right control arm maybe. Oil leaked on the control arm. Clutch might need to be done soon. He sent me the pictures of the damage on the car, which we'll go over in another video. Check engine light, blah, blah, blah. This is a nice picture right here. I like this one. I sent this to a couple of my buddies when they asked what I was buying. The car was actually being tuned on ethanol when he was selling it, but he put it back on 93 for me. The car's actually on Eurodyne. I don't know if I've said that in a video yet. It used to be on Cobb Tune from Freak Tune, and he switched it to Eurodyne because he couldn't find a Cobb tuner in Texas that wanted to tune a big turbo GTI. So I want to switch back to Cobb, I think. I'm not a huge fan of the Eurodyne platform. I was gonna have the homies that integrated custom tune it for me, but unfortunately they're really busy, so that's not gonna happen. So blah blah blah. I said you could check out my YouTube channel. The car is gonna be going to a great place. E85 will put you at 550. I'm not sure about that. Told me that it needed the pan replaced, and then I sent it for a pre-purchase inspection, and they found oil leaking, which he also knew about. He just replaced the oil feed line, and there's oil left over in the area. I think this is leaking somewhere, and I don't exactly know the part to replace it, but again, I could probably source it through ATP. It's an ATP Turbo Kit. I don't have the title on hand. It'll have to be 2 weeks, so we figured out the title, this and that. We went through it. He sent me more pictures of when it had methanol installed. Neither of us are huge fans of methanol, and you probably won't see methanol again on that car. He did leave this nice little gauge mount in the vent, so in the future I could put a 52 mil boost gauge in there or something like that. I sent it for a pre-purchase, and they said it had no air conditioning, so he fixed the air conditioning line for me. Premium order special fittings, whatever. That's the mileage. I said, is that a crack? He said, no, that's a reflection. There's a scuff on the bumper, though. So then he sends me, I went ahead and changed the oil plug for you because he thought that was what was dripping. Look at this. There's a piece of the oil pan that came out with it, which is sick. So I bought a new pan for the car, and you'll see that in upcoming videos. At this point, I said, all right, you know what? I paid for a compression test. I paid for a pre-purchase inspection. It's time to buy the... So at this point, I had bought the car. My buddy Michael, who I mentioned at the beginning of the video, again, a huge shout out to him, drove 3 hours to pick the car up from the seller, drove 3 hours back, and then we started dealing with shipping company nonsense. So the shipping company that I originally got a quote from was very low priced, and now I know why. It's because they were just lowballing the drivers. And so, yeah, the car was promised to be picked up 4 different times and was not picked up any of those 4 times. At this point, I'm inconveniencing my friends at Crawl 1960, so I said, you know what, let me find another shipping company. One of you guys reached out, sent me to another shipping company who was able to get the car on the truck that day, but was unable to get me the car the Tuesday that they promised, which would have been from Friday to Tuesday. It was actually delivered a week after that Tuesday, but it showed up, and that's that. And so now I have this GTI in my driveway, leaking oil, that has a lot of problems and a lot of potential. And so the next video that you guys will see will be us discovering the problems, and then we'll start fixing them. So very excited about this car. I think it's a pretty unique opportunity, and I really want to get serious about this YouTube thing. I really want to make this happen. So if you guys have ideas for videos, if you have thoughts for videos, leave them down below. Anything you want to see on the Mark 6, let me know. Give me ideas for next project cars. The SQ5 is done. And so if the right thing comes up, I would get out of the SQ5 and get into the next thing. I need something reliable that cruises on the highway. S7. No, just kidding. I don't know if I want to buy that much. But yeah, I'm really excited. I hope you guys enjoyed the process of how I found this car. Again, my logic for it is all the expensive stuff is out of the way. The motor build and the turbo kit are the expensive stuff. If I have to do the rear main seal, if I have to do timing chain tensioners, which I don't, it's got the updated revision, so it's good there. If I have to do the rear main seal, if I have to do, the oil pan 16 times, even that doesn't offset the cost of the big turbo and the built motor. So this is the perfect car, I think. It knocks out the easy stuff. We don't have to make videos on stage 1, stage 2, because most of you already know what that's like, and if you don't, you can go back and watch my old GTI videos, but we're going to be jumping in at life beyond stage 2 and rolling from there. So really excited. Again, if you guys have any ideas for videos, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Go out there and spread some positivity. Hope you're doing well, and I will see you guys in the next video. I will catch you guys in the next video. I don't know why I said see you guys. I've been doing this outro for how many years now? Anyway, all right, I'll catch you guys later.